Hey guys, it's Kevin. It's me, another classic movie for guys. Continuing my look at the Mission Impossible movies. This time reviewing the 2006 thriller action spy classic Mission Impossible 3. Now, I was really looking forward to Mission Impossible 3 because I heard that it is the movie that really put the series back on top, and a lot of people were worried after Mission Impossible 2 that Tom Cruise really couldn't do it anymore, that it wasn't going to be as good, and that it wasn't really going to work, and Mission Impossible 3 proved everyone wrong. I love Mission Impossible 3. I will say the first one is still my favorite, but this is definitely my second favorite. It does have just a few small minimal problems. They're like very, very small, but other than that, I really do love this movie. I think this is a really great movie, and for what it is, it definitely was very good. And like I said, a lot of people are very worried about it, including myself. Mission Impossible 2 was not a very good movie. It just was not at all the direction that this series needs to be. And this movie, they really understood the series more. And there are some things that I found kind of interesting about this movie that I don't know if anyone else has talked about that I definitely am going to bring up because I found it very interesting. Let's get to the plot of Mission Impossible 3, which I personally really do like. It's probably one of the best plots of the series, honestly. I think it's a great plot. Basically, Ethan Hunt, he now is kind of settled down with Michelle Monaghan's character, Jillian, and she's everything to him. I mean, they have this great relationship. They're engaged, basically. And it seems like they're gonna get to, it seems like everything's gonna work out. But he's even trying to possibly contemplate retiring from IMF. However, he gets a call from IMF that this girl he's been training with, um, Lindsay, is basically in danger, and he has to go on another mission to rescue them. And at the same time, there's this guy named Owen Davian, who is this black market dealer that has created this thing called Rabbit's Foot, and they have to figure out what that is. And this thing basically, there's this basically this explosive pellet that was implanted in Lindsay's head and ends up killing her. And basically, they have to figure out what's going on and stop it from happening. And that basically is the plot of Mission Impossible 3. And I really do love the plot of the movie. There are a lot of things I really love that this movie did. Something though that I really did like, first, right off the bat, I talked about how Mission Impossible 2 tried to make this series bigger and better, given a more complex plot. It really didn't work. This pretty much does the same exact thing as that movie, but does it in such a better way, and I'll get to that. First of all, let's get to the acting here, which the acting is phenomenal in this movie. Tom Cruise is Ethan Hunt. This is his best performance in the series, well, besides the fourth movie, because I haven't seen the fourth movie in a while. I watched it in theaters, and that's really the only time I've seen it. But Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt, kills in this movie. I love his character. I love how he's kind of like, this is more of what Ethan Hunt needs to be, not the James Bond version we saw of Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible 2, because Ethan Hunt is not this superhero. He's not James Bond. He's just a regular guy involved in IMF, and this movie really portrayed that very well. I mean, the situation he's in a very difficult situation. He keeps getting pulled back in IMF, even though he really just wants to not be there, and I think that definitely is very compelling with his character. They really did a great job of fleshing out his character more. However, he does have some awesome moments as the badass. You definitely see Ethan Hunt is a lot more aware of what he's doing, and definitely it's more the first one where the mission always comes first and everything else is to the side. And it's really sad because he wants to settle down with, Jillian, but he doesn't even know if he can be with her because of the constant danger that his team's always in. He's not really he's very worried about what's going to happen there. And I think Tom Cruise did a fantastic job with that, and he really killed it in this movie. However, the best part of this movie by far, the thing that makes this movie as good as it is Philip Seymour Hoffman as Owen Davian, which rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman, because once again, he gives one of the best performances of his career in this movie. I mean, his character, Owen Davian, something that people do complain about with these movies, and I will agree, is that the villains are not the strongest. They're not bad, but they're just not that memorable. The first one, the villain was memorable to me because of the twist. The second one, he was like a James Bond villain. And in this, though, Owen is a very powerful villain. I do agree with what I watched. I watched a review of Tom Chattel Bashes, and I do agree with what he said, that Owen is not necessarily, when you look at his physical appearance, he's not menacing, but he's the kind of guy that just gets stuff done and will do anything, and he will mess up your life if, he's very menacing. There's this great scene where Ethan basically has this conversation with him, and he's like, "You got a wife, a girlfriend?" I'm gonna find her and I'm gonna hurt her. And it, like, right there, that's when you realize that he's very menacing. And the way he did that, I thought was really great. My only thing with his character is I wish they would have fleshed him out a little bit more. We don't get much beyond him just being a villain. Like, we don't see what his motive is, things like that. I would have wanted a little bit more of that, but I think for the most part, Philip Seymour Hoffman did a great job, and he definitely was very good in this movie. Um, one of my biggest things that I loved in this movie was Ving Rhames finally being back to the comedic side. I mean, the second one, he was so boring. I don't know what the hell they did with him in the second one. He had, like, nothing to do. But here, no, he's back to being the really funny sidekick of Ethan and having some really fun lines. The interactions between him and Ethan are just great. They work great together, and I think Ving Rhames did a great job in this movie. The second you see him, you know that he's back to being the comedic side, and I really love that, because that's what made him such a good character in the first place. Billy Crudup was also really good. Michelle Monaghan, I think, added a lot to this movie, though. The relationship between her and Ethan is just great. I mean, the way they flesh out their characters as well, she really gives Ethan more of a reason to not be on the team. Something they tried to do in the second one. You know, they tried to give him a love interest. It really didn't work out. Something I like about this movie, in the first one, in the second one, if you remember, he had to recruit Naya onto the team. In this, there's no let's recruit Julia. It's just Julia's in his life. She's, he's gonna marry her. He wants to be with her, but he can't stay away from IMF. And that's something I think is a lot more compelling. And how she doesn't, I like that she wasn't like, oh, you gotta leave IMF. I like that she wasn't annoying like that. I like that she told him, look, make your own decisions. She cared for him. I thought she did a really great job in this movie. There's some really great chemistry between them. She has some really good emotional moments in this movie. And like I said, there is a lot of action in this movie, which I will get into, but she definitely was very good. Kerry Russell has some really great scenes as Lindsay, who I really like the relation between her and Ethan as well. She does die in, like, the first few minutes of this movie. It's not a spoiler. It's part of the plot, but she's this girl that he trained, and the relation between them, I think, is definitely very interesting, and I really love that. Jonathan Rhys Meyers is really my only complaint in this movie, because he kept going back and forth between a British accent to a Scottish accent to an Irish accent. It's like, dude, pick an accent, seriously. They're not all the same, and, like, he kept going back and forth, but I thought he did a good job overall. He was definitely really good. Maggie Q was good as well. She doesn't have much to do. She's nice to look at, but that's really it. Simon Pegg, not much to do in this movie, as you may expect. They definitely gave him more to do in the fourth one, but he was still very funny in this movie. And the last person I'm really going to talk about is Lawrence Fishburne, who I thought was great as Ethan's boss. He was really powerful, really menacing. You could really see how he wants to get stuff done, how he keeps pulling Ethan back in. I mean, he essentially is the reason why Ethan keeps going back in, is because of his boss. And I thought he did a great job, and he really was fantastic. We did get ahead of IMF in the second one, but it felt a lot smaller, and this feels so much bigger, and I love that about this movie. That was fantastic. Something the movie definitely did a great job with establishing the team dynamic. Something we didn't really get in the second one. I never really believed there was much of a team in the second one. Here, the team dynamic is very strong. You see how close they become, and I love that. Now, this was J.J. Abrams' first directorial debut, and he has admitted there are problems with his directing. Me personally, though, because of how bad John Woo was with this series and how how much he did not understand the series, J.J. Abrams is, like, amazing due to him, and he definitely did a great job. He knew the series, he knew what made it great, and he did for a directorial debut, he definitely did a very good job with this movie, and he definitely really understood the series, and that's something you really want with the directors, and that's something I think they did a really good job with from here on out, is that they always pick directors that understand the series so they don't get another John Woo, who thought he was directing something like James Bond. So I'm happy J.J. Abrams went in the direction he gave this movie. He definitely did a great job, and I really love that. The screenplay of this movie is also really great. There are some great emotional moments. They also did bring the comedy back, which I was very happy about. That's something that these movies need. You can't just be a bunch of serious shit like the second one. The second one was way too serious, and it was awkward. And the funny scenes are funny. They're not awkward. They're funny, and they did a really good job with that. There's some great emotional stuff in this movie, but something else I really did love is the way they really do flesh out the character of Ethan Hunt. They give him definitely a lot more to do, and you see him a lot less of just this, in the first one, he was really starting to come to terms with who he was, and I really like seeing that in this movie as well. I definitely did a very good job with that. My only complaint with this movie, I'd have to say, is the action and the cinematography. The cinematography is by far the best to date we've had in this series. It looks beautiful. There are some stunning action sequences. There is this one action sequence everyone talks about, but I'm talking about it. It's when Ethan, he like dives right in front of this car. It barely hits him. And of course, Tom Cruise does his own stunts. So if he would have made one little step, like if he would have gone one like step wrong, if someone would have gone wrong, the car would have bashed into his head. He probably would have been seriously hurt, and it's just insane what Tom Cruise does in this movie. There's another one where he like leaps from this building to a building to a building. I mean, it's insane stuff, but they are awesome to watch. They keep you on the edge of your seat, and it's nail biting. My only thing is there's so many action scenes that the film doesn't get a lot of time to breathe. There are times when we get to rest, but there are a lot of times when it's just, oh, there's so much action, can we maybe not have as much and focus a little bit more on the story? Because there is definitely more of a story in this than there was in the second one, but it kind of did more what I wanted the second one to do. However, I did feel this one relied on the action a little bit too much. It kind of turned the series into more of a thriller, which was fine, but it just felt like maybe we should have had a little more time with the characters, because we don't really get to see a lot of the team just be a team and interact with each other. Something the movie definitely did a very good job, though, is showing that these are real people. They're just people in a team. They're not superheroes. They're not the greatest people ever. They're just people in a team, and they did a fantastic job with establishing that, definitely. It's something I thought was really great with this movie, with the cinematography. I mean, there are definitely, as I said, some stunning scenes that had me on the edge of my seat, and I was loving it. There were some amazing action scenes in this movie, and if you want the most action-packed one, this is by far probably the most action-packed of all of them. Again, I haven't seen Ghost Protocol in a while, so that probably will determine which one is, which one's more action-packed, which I can't wait to watch that, but this definitely, out of the ones I've seen, is the most action-packed, definitely. And something else I loved, the score is back to the original. Thank God Michael Giacchino. I mean, that stupid, shitty rock thing we had in the second one, what the fuck was that? Like, it was like, down, 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 down. Like, that's not it. Don't make like it sounded like Spy Kids, honestly. That sounded like Spy Kids, and this sounds more like what the Mission Impossible series needs to be, and I love that. It was perfect. I was so happy they brought back the score, because that's what makes you realize I'm watching a Mission Impossible movie. When I hear that score, I think of Mission Impossible. When I hear down, 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 that's not what I think of. I think of some big, like, James Bond movie. This is a Mission Impossible score, and I think they did a great job with realizing you don't need to update the score. You don't need to make the score more modern. That's something the movie did very well, is that it didn't try to be more explosions, things like that. It didn't try to be bigger and better. It did do some of the things that the second movie did, but it did it a lot better. It didn't try to be too modern, which is something I thought was really great. The second one was definitely trying to be a lot more modern, and it did not work. And there's no love triangle in this movie. There are subplots in this movie, but they work very well, and I definitely really did like that. If I had to have one other complaint with the movie, is that the rest of the team, besides Ethan Hunt, doesn't have any story. They really don't. They're just there, they're in the team, they're interacting with Ethan, and that was really my only other thing with this movie, is that I would have wanted at least a little bit more development from some of the other characters. I would have wanted that. But the editing was great. The movie flew by so fast for me. I was surprised by how into it I was, but wow, like, I was on the edge of my seat toward the end of this movie. I mean, it was really, really good stuff, guys. There's a scene here that's very reminiscent of the second one, but it did what the second one should have done, and what I wish the second one would have done. And now we're going to get into spoilers. If you have not seen Mission Impossible 3, I really do want to talk some spoilers for this movie, because there's some really good stuff that I really did love about this movie. So if you've not seen Mission Impossible 3, I am going to give out some spoilers, so here we go. I really want to get into the whole thing with Julia. I mean, that was really well done. When basically, Billy Crudup's character tells Ethan that the woman, that Julia was not killed by Owen. It was actually not Julia. And when I thought Julia was gonna die, because she seemed like that kind of character that they were basically setting her up for death. Something else I do like about this movie, by the way, is that there is no mention of the second movie. Thank you. Thank you for not mentioning the second movie at all. I'm very happy they did that, because the second movie is a disaster. Well, not really a disaster, it just wasn't Mission Impossible. And I'm happy that they didn't mention anything about the second movie. So that was really great. And honestly, some people could be like, why don't they mention Naya? Do you really care about Naya? Like, when you think about it, do you really care about Nia compared to Julia? Like, I care about Julia so much more. But the fact that Julia was alive, I thought was really great. And then there's the scene, of course, where Ethan basically you're not sure if Ethan's gonna live in that final scene or not. And they did a great job with keeping you on the edge of your seat. And of course, Julia's trying to give him, CPR and everything. The way they handled that was fantastic. I definitely love that. And luckily he is finally revived. And I thought they did a great job with that, definitely. And I loved that final scene between Ethan and Julia. And then the ending of this movie I thought was really fascinating because it kind of felt like that was the end of the series. There is a way where this could have been the end of the series, and I can understand why. I mean, Tom Cruise was getting older. Some people said that they didn't need that they, should have stopped here. I think this was intentionally meant to be like, well, if we don't, if people don't want us to do another one, we can close on a good note. It would have been a good note to close on, him riding off into the sunset with Julia. That would have been a nice note. Of course, I'm happy they're doing other movies, but all I'm saying is that this would have been a good way to end things. I know this wasn't how they end things, but it would have been a good way to end things, and I was definitely very happy about that, and I thought they did definitely a very good job with that. And the way the movie ended, where Ethan, he doesn't give an answer yes or no if he's returning, which I really do like. He's not really sure if he's returning to IMF or not, but he does know that, he does make that, of course, Theodore, Lawrence Fishburne's character, makes that promise to him that he will tell him what the rabbit's foot is, and I thought that was really great, and I definitely really love that. I have to say, they did a really good job with that. And overall, I definitely really loved about the movie. Something else I really liked is the way the movie just started with that scene. Like the movie started like, here's what's gonna happen leading up to that. I thought that was definitely very good as well. Really got you into the movie, made you like, okay, I'm really into the story, and I can't wait to see where that goes. Like, how do we get to there? With the flash forward, I thought they did a great job with that. So overall, guys, Mission Impossible 3 is definitely more of what this series needs to be. I was very impressed by it. My only complaint is with this Blu-ray. This is really stupid, guys. I don't like this at all because Disc 1, there's no Disc 2. Yeah, so I bought this and there's no Disc 2. I don't know why, but they didn't put a Disc 2 on this, and that's really stupid. They couldn't have just, you're telling me you couldn't put some decent features on this and, like, make your own? I don't know. But they didn't do that, and that kind of pisses me off that this says Disc 1 and there's no Disc 2. But overall, guys, Mission Impossible 3 is by far the, definitely back, is a step in the right direction. It definitely is more of what the series needs to be. It's more of what I want the Mission Impossible movies to be. It felt more like a it definitely feels like a Mission Impossible movie. It did rely a little bit on action, but for the most part, I definitely really loved it. And I'm going to get to my grade. I have been not talking about grades in my reviews. I'm sorry, guys, I just wasn't thinking about it. And I'm going to say what I've graded each one right now. The first Mission Impossible, I give a solid A. I love Mission Impossible. The Mission Impossible 2, I would give a C+, and Mission Impossible 3 gets an A-. I really love Mission Impossible 3. It's a really great movie. It does have those few problems I talked about, but I am super hyped to rewatch Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. I just bought it today. I got it from Amazon. It just came today, thank God. I can't wait to watch this movie. I have seen it already, but I am going to rewatch it. I remember I saw it in theaters before watching any of these movies. I'm an idiot. I don't know why I watched Ghost Protocol before watching the first 3 movies, but I'm an idiot. So I'm an idiot. I still am, and I'll always be. So whatever. But as we see my review, hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys saw this movie. You have seen it. I overall love this movie, and we'll see you guys in the next video, which will be for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.